solving quadratics by factoring. That's really what we're doing when we completing this square. Square.
Squar. What's the third word?
Square. Don't make me write on this. Solving by completing the square. This is this. And it looked like this. Well, let me break it down to this. If you had x plus 6 times x minus 3, and that all equals 0, how did we solve that? Well, it already is factored. Yeah, you need to know when this is 0, when this is 0. Remember that? It was like 3 weeks ago. When will this parenthesis be equal to 0? When x is negative 6, because the negative 6 plus the positive 6 is 0. When will this parenthesis be 0? When this is a positive 3. So those are my two answers for that. Okay. Now, before we talk about the next thing, I want to go over just a couple things about squares. If you have x squared equals 16, what is the answer to that and why? Why is 4 the answer to that, Ava?
X equals 4 or negative 4 because either one.
Because of what?
Because both were multiplied by each other plus 16.
Okay. Or, here's what you need to think about. There's that rule in equations that say as long as you do the same thing both sides, you're okay, it stays equal. Well, what are we actually doing when we get 4 to this? We are actually taking the square root of both sides. Because the square root of x squared means x times x. So if you take the square root of x times x, what number times itself gives you x squared, that's where x comes from. And this one is what number times itself gives you 16, which is 4. Now you do have to remember, it is going to be, today we have to specifically remember what we're going to get for answers needs to be plus or minus. Okay, because really positive 4 times positive 4 gives you 16, negative 4 times negative 4 gives you 16. Okay?
So both plus
Okay. You can just write as plus or minus 4. Alright, here we go. It's time to make some deductive leapage here.
I'm ready.
What does that mean?
Huh?
What does that mean?
I don't know how I'm ready for this. It sounds
Check this out. What if when I factored something, okay, by the way, not always are quadratics going to work out nicely. Everything you've done so far, the book was really nice and gave you nice numbers that worked out nicely. So get in your head that that doesn't always happen. But what if this happens? What if I had x plus 3 times x plus 3 equals, let's just say 36.
What?
6.
Now, wake up from your slumber here and think about what I just told you and showed you and try to relate that thing. Try to relate this
You have to figure out
to this.
what times what plus 3 times what plus 3 equals 36.
No. Stop, look, and listen here. What do you notice about this?
It's a square.
This is the same thing as this. I think Gabe said that.
So it'd be 9.
Okay, that's the same thing as that. So if you were thinking along the lines of this x squared, what if I took the square root of both sides? What if I take the square root of both sides? What is the square root of x plus 3 times x plus 3?
9.
3 times 1. 6.
What is, Holly?
No, I think I got that.
Say it.
X plus 6.
No. Where does the x plus 6? What two things are getting multiplied together here?
X
squared plus 9.
Wait, stop, people.
And then
Where are you getting all these other numbers from? I am multiplying x plus 3 times x plus 3. If I take the square root of that, I just
it's
get
x
1
plus
of them.
3. It's 3. X plus 3 equals 6.
Now
X
stop.
plus 3. X plus 3.
That's plus 6.
I will remove you from the room if you keep flirting. Okay. These are the same identical things that are getting multiplied, so if you take the square root of them, you just get one of them. Just like 4 plus 4, 4 times 4, if I take the square root of that, I get 4. I don't get 8 or whatever you guys are throwing in there. Now here's where you have to be careful though when this happens is, what times what gives you 36? That again has to be, but it has to be a plus or a minus 6, because minus, so when you write this out, I need more paper here. When I write this out, I'm going to write it out here. X plus 3 squared equals 36. When I take the square root of both sides, this gives me x plus 3. The other side gives me a plus or minus 6. I'm not done solving that yet because my x isn't by itself, but I'm going to get two answers. One of the answers comes with when x plus 3 equals a positive 6, and the other answer comes when x plus 3 equals a negative 6, because you have to do it once with the positive, once with the negative, because the square root of 36 is both positive 6 and negative 6. So now I need to get x by itself by subtracting 3. So x is going to equal either 3 or x is going to equal a negative 9. I will do another one because I know that.
I get it.
Well, we did that right.
Wait, so x either equals 3 or negative 9? Or positive 9?
Hey, what are you doing to
I'll wait for questions in another second here. I don't want to get distracted from where we're at. Okay, here's another problem, just like that one.
Alright, hold on. Don't do it.
No, it's gonna do.
Jack, you with me? Okay, you haven't taken any notes at all? Down there. If you take the square root of both sides, this is, if you're looking at it as this being the same as this, taking the square root of that, what do I get if I take the square root of x plus 8 squared? I get x plus 8. What do I get if I take the square root of 100? Again, you have to remember it's either a positive 10 or a minus 10. You have to do both situations. Okay, so x plus 8 equals positive 10. X plus 8 equals minus 10. I have to solve both of those. One for the positive side of 10, one for the negative side of 10. Subtract 8, x equals 2. Subtract 8, subtract 8, x equals negative 18.
Okay, now I'm
How?
What if it's like 99?
Okay, I want to make sure, somebody have questions on this before we get to Holly's way up? Because that's actually what the next step that we have to do. It's just the next step, it's true. This worked, I was nice and I gave you ones that worked out. Taylor, or Kendall.
If you said it was supposed to be plus or minus, why did you,
Do one plus and one minus, because one's plus, one's minus, plus and minus. This is the
That's
plus, this is the minus.
You just
so
make
that's why you had to.
So I get two answers because it's plus or minus 10. One time I have the plus the 10, one time I have the minus the 10. Okay? Now, Holly brought up this question here. What if I have this? What if I have, I don't know, x minus 3 times x minus 3, and it equals something awkward like 17. 17 is going to end up being an irrational number because it's not going to work out. But let's look at what happens. This is all that's going to be different. The difference is you're not going to be able to add or subtract them in the end. It's going to look like this. You still take the square root, you still take the square root. Square root of this is simply x minus 3. You cannot do anything with the square root of 17, so you just have to leave it as the square root of 17, but it is still plus or minus square root of 17. And unfortunately, your answer is going to just look like this. If I need to solve this for for x, I add 3 to both sides. Okay, I add 3 over here. It doesn't combine with the square root of 17 because they're not like terms in any way. So you have 2 answers here. It's like, it's gonna be this, x equals, I'll put the number first, 3 plus the square root of 17, and x is going to equal 3 minus the square root of 17. You can do no more than that with it.
How come you can't
I have a
add
question.
it to the square root?
Because they're not the same thing. Square root of 17s are not the same thing as 3. You could think about what the answer would be close to. If you had a calculator, you could pop in there the square root of 17. It's going to be 4 point something because it's between 4 and 5. And your answer is going to be close to 7 if you wanted to get close. But we don't need to get close. We're just going to leave it as irrational numbers as square roots, and that is simply going to be it.
So when you do like the x minus 3 and then the x minus 3, is it always just the answer gonna be that, just one of them x minus 3, or will it be like one of these times like it'll be those two
You can't have two.
numbers
You
and then,
cannot
like,
have 2 different
x.
binomials here, or this will not work. So
So-
the answer to your question is yes. There's going to be 2 identical ones. They're going to factor up to give you this. As a matter of fact, that's going to be our next step after we get this kind of
So
solidified.
they'll just give you that number alone every time. Like how you
Well, kind of. You'll see in a minute. Caroline.
When you put the answer like that, does it have to be the x and then the regular number and then the square root?
Doesn't have to be, but I think that's the accepted way. I should probably look. It really doesn't matter. It's not a big problem. Now, let's not forget that this might happen here. Take a look at this. X squared plus 8x plus 16 equals next chart. 49. Okay, I'm just dropping you back one more step here. If you look at the trinomial here, Colton, don't cross your eyes. And I asked you to factor that down, what times what multiplied gives you 16, when added together gives you 8. This breaks into what 2 binomials? Look at this trinomial. Remember reverse FOIL, we've done that probably a zillion times. What times what gives you 16 when added together gives you 8. I know it's tough. Pop it.
X plus 4, x plus 4.
Look, you get x plus 4 times x plus 4 equals 49. If you get that, that's the same thing we've just been doing. And you can solve that by doing what? Taking the
x plus
square
4 and
root
then you
of both sides. That's what we just did. Which gives me what? X plus 4 equals plus or minus 7.
What if one of them's negative and then they're not the same?
It won't, you can't do it. No can do, mon frere. Okay. Subtract 4,
I get this.
well, do the 2 equations there, you won't in a minute. X plus 4 minus, I'm sorry, equals positive 7. X plus 4 equals negative 7. Subtract 4, x equals 3, and over here x equals negative 11. What's that?
Do we have to ever graph this?
We're not graphing, not yet.
Um,
But you could graph because you know how. How about this one? X squared minus 10x plus 25 equals 64. I will give you a second to try that. Don't you worry, if you get this, you won't in a minute. So we ended up with, let's hope you factored this, and this ended up being x minus 5 times x minus 5.
I got it.
You took the square root of both sides. Two identical factors give you that factor, so I get x minus 5. That equals square root of 64 is 8, so it's plus or minus 8. So you have x minus 5, two equations. One time you get the positive 8 side, the other time you get the negative 8 side. Add 5 to both sides. So one answer should have been 13, and one answer should have been negative 3.
Yes.
Hey, I got the answer right. Yeah, is it negative 13? I got it.
Okay. Now, wherever you're at in your mathematical journey, I need this one here, Kyle. Just focus on this for just 1 second. Take a look up here, because we got one more mathematical jump to do here.
I'm tired, Johnny. I can't jump anymore.
Plus 24.
I don't know how to tell you this.
Yeah, then don't. Just don't even worry.
We don't have to worry about this.
Google it.
Ashley, just give me a number.
25. No, wait, no, actually.
36.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
0.
you. Whoa.
How about we pick 2? Pick 0.
You said 36.
She outscored
Okay, I'm gonna do this. No, she didn't. Plus 36.
Yay.
Yes.
Okay, let's just stop and take a look at that. That is not a perfect square.
What? Actually,
Okay, because here's what you have to, first thing you have to understand is this. All those other ones we did that worked out, where does 25 come from on a perfect square? It's half of this. You take half of 10, 5 times 5 is 25.
Actually,
If you look at this one, where did 16 come from?
half.
Half of 8, 4 times 4 is 16. So
Actually, 25.
Ashley is, if Ashley was really trying to get me, she should have said half of 6 is 9, but she gave me 36, but that's where I wanted her to go anyway. What happens when you're given this trinomial? Let's make it one that can be solved, put 0 in there. What do I do? And here's the beauty of math, children.
Goodbye.
You guys can manipulate this equation so that it is a perfect square, because all you need to do, you just need to change this number. You want this number to be a 9, correct?
So divide.
Wait,
You
let's
add
just,
those numbers, the 3 and the 6.
I'll wait for it. Before you start wording out here, here is the directions you need to write down. This will make sense. Step number 1 is you need to move the just number term, hashtag, to the other side. Okay, in other words, I don't want this 36 here right now, I want to put it on the other side. And I probably should have made it I'm gonna make it a minus 36. Can I do that just because I don't want to go over a million different things here? Well, I could leave it as that. So I'm going to, how do I move this from this side to the other side? I just add, do the opposite. So now my equation ends up looking like this. X squared plus 6x, I have nothing here, equals 36 on that side. Right? All I did was move that 36 over. Zach, you with me? Helps if you're looking at it, because otherwise I think you're off in whatever it is. Okay, now, we just talked about this. In a perfect world, for me to do what all that stuff we've been doing by taking the square root, I need to figure out what this number needs to be in order to be able to take that square root kind of thing. And we just talked about that. Where did it come from? It comes from when you take half of, step number 2, take 1/2 of the number, hashtag, in front of the x term and square it. Add that to both sides, because you can't just add it to one. Okay, so here we go. I'll let you write that down, and then we're going to talk about it, because then the light bulbs will all slowly but surely start turning on.
Yeah, no, so I think my light bulb is burnt out.
Yeah, he doesn't have one.
Problem is, most of yours are the compact fluorescent light bulbs. They don't shine as bright as the regular incandescents.
I don't even know what that was.
I didn't even.
Okay, look. Once again,
Wait, go back to the instructions.
let me get the instructions again. This is what you need to think. This worked out nicely as perfect squares because 25 is half of this square. That's what makes a perfect square trinomial. Same thing over here. This 16 worked out because that was half of 8. 8 times, or half of 8 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Down here, I need to take half of the x term, which is half of 6 is 3, then square it, which is 9, and I add that to both sides because I can't just add it to one. It needs to balance out. When you do equations, what you do to one side, you need to do to the other. Now, what do I have left? I have this side, which is a perfect square trinomial. This can be factored into x plus 3 times x plus 3. This thing ends up being 45 over there. It's not going to work out really too nicely, but it is something. And then I can do the thing I just did before. Take the square root of both sides. That's my step number 3. Take the square
Where
root.
did you get 45?
36 plus 9.
Where did you add? Why did you add 9? Because you have nothing to add.
Where does the 9 come from? That's is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Half of this
It's 3.
squared. 3 times 3 is 9.
So you just gotta add that.
Then I just add it to both sides. It doesn't combine with any of these. And it ends up, that's what makes your perfect square trinomial. And then if you take the square root of both sides, this has a perfect square, which is x plus 3. This doesn't have a perfect square, but it can be simplified, children. Square root of 45 is what?
5 and 9. 3 times the square root of 5.
3 squared times,
It's the square root of 9 times the square root of 5, and the square root of 9 is 3. Okay, so you end up with a plus or minus 3 times the square root of 5. That's what the square root of 45 is. And unfortunately, you're still not done. Why? Because you need to subtract this 3 over here. It's not 3/5, it's 3 times the square root of 5. So it just looks like this. This is a minus 3.
Where'd you get the square root?
Right here. Square root of 45 is square root of 9 times square root of 5. So I end up with a negative 3 when I subtract it over, plus 3 times the square root of 5, and I have a negative 3 minus 3 times the square root of 5. Don't worry, kids. We'll bond a lot more with this.
Yeah, no, I don't even.
No.
I think it's going farther.
If you can follow clear, concise, short, and
I didn't even
expertly
get the
given
instructions
advice.
down.
Wait, does that say?
There is no free concise. Here we go. Excited about this now?
No,
No more.
I need the instruction.
Wait, there's more?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you another one.
What? What are you doing? No.
If you know what's good for you, don't revolt on me now.
No.
You've been so good up to this point. Here we go. Step number one. Step number one. Get rid of that negative 18. Move the number to the other side. Hashtag. You don't want to have to deal with it because you want to be able to look at it without. So I'm just going to add 18 to both sides. So now I'm left with x squared minus 20. I'm missing this term here because I moved it over, but I'm going to fix that in just a second. I want to be able to manipulate my equation so that I get a perfect square trinomial. Okay. Step 2, same thing we just talked about. In order to find out what this number has to be, I need to take half of this and square it. Step 2, take 1/2 of the x term and square it and add to both sides. Half of the x term, Kyle Westfall, what's half of negative 20?
10.
Half of 10? Yes. And what is negative 10 times negative 10? 100. So I add 100 to both sides. I'm adding to both sides. So my new equation is this. Because of what I just did, I now know that this is a perfect square. What was it that I multiplied to give me this 100? Negative 10 times a negative 10. So this breaks down into a binomial that's a negative 10 times a negative 10.
We have to break down the square root of 113.
If it does break down, you get 2 times 59, that probably doesn't, so.
You can't have a square root.
Don't.
You can't.
We
just
just did that.
I can't have square root of what?
But why did you get, wouldn't it be, you did plus 100 there and then wouldn't you minus that?
No, I'm adding 100 to both sides, I'm keeping it balanced.
Because it was
I wasn't moving, I'm not moving this 100 from one side to the other, I'm adding it to both sides.
Wait, how did you get 100?
What's half of 20? Squared,
So
10 times 10.
now once I get my perfect squares, I square root, and I square root. What is the square root of x minus 10 times x minus 10?
It's minus 10.
X minus 10.
What? Genius.
What's the square root of 118? It's plus or minus the square root of 118. It doesn't break down. 2 times 59 doesn't break down anymore, so that's it. What are my two answers going to be? Now I need to get rid of the 10 by adding it to this side. I add it to this side, so I get 10 plus the square root of 118 and 10 minus the square root of 118.
why?
I've
never used this.
What we
We'll use it
Actually,
for
agreeing.
maps test to get that 250 whatever.
I
can show you. I can show you next year in Yorkville, it's on their eligible, it's their eligible one thing. Wyron.
So what if you have that squared minus like 9? Wait, no.
Ask again, Ava. What if it's what?
Like x squared minus 19x.
Yeah, we're not gonna get to the odd numbers. That's a later lesson that would really, see how Shayla looks now, if we did an odd number, she'd really. If it's an odd number, unfortunately, then you have to deal with
Wait,
fractions.
Oh my god. Wait, what is that? Ava just.
Right here.
But
Alright, here we go. X squared plus 14x minus 10 equals 0. I wanna see how far you get, at least write down the directions or do step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. We'll see how far we get before we hit the proverbial brick wall.
No, I did not pass the proverbial
brick wall.
I know how some of your grades are, you're hoping your last grade in math to be like the best. There's no yelling at the teacher if you want your grades.
There's
That's for sure.
I'm so.
That would be the last thing. Again, I understand confusion, but I don't understand the inability to follow the simple rules of this one. Move the 10 to the other side. What's half of 14?
Oh, yeah.
7.
Square 7.
49.
Add 49 to both sides.
Wait.
I think I
Your goal should be get to one step closer than you did the last time before you got.
I did.
I keep on getting to the same stuff.
What number goes in?
I did it all. I think, right?
I think I have it.
That makes 59.
It was 49.
Okay, I'm stuck here. I'm done. Wait, okay. Can I say my answer? Don't say the answer.
If nothing else, you'll look smart. I believe it says to add to both sides. That was the rule.
How do you find the middle number? Oh, yeah.
Step 2 says to take half of the x term and add to both sides.
Alright, no worries, I got it.
I got it. Now I'm stuck.
I think I got it.
I think it's so.
Seven plus square root
Okay.
and 9.
Again, it's helpful if you're not talking while I am, just because while you might get it, some other people might not, and they might be distracted by your yelling and shouting all the exceptional stuff. You need to move, get this 10 from here to the other side, that's why you add it over there, so you have a blank spot that you can fill in with the number that you want. How do I know what that number is? I take half of the x term, which is 7, and square it, which is 49. So now I need to, in order to keep my equations balanced, I need to add that to both sides so it still stays on a scale, it'll be the same. So now I'm left with x squared plus 14x plus 49 equals 49.
Wait.
Or 59, sorry. And you just need to think back, what's gonna go next to the x is the number that you squared, so you know it's gonna be 7, because 7 times 7, you get x plus 7 times x plus 7, two binomials that give you the trinomial that you created because that's what you
Wait, why
wanted.
do you know it's 7?
Well, because that's the number when you cut 14 in half, that's the number you multiply to give you that, it's gonna be the same number every time. Because it's that number times that number that gives you that number. Still equals 59, and then here, once you get that into that, or if you want to write it as x plus 7 squared, I don't care, but take the square root of it, take the square root of it. That breaks away one of those things, so it's this times that, so you're just left with x plus 7 equals, do not forget this part, it's plus or minus the square root of 59. Almost done, gotta subtract the 7 over, so you end up with two answers that are one with the plus square root of 59, one with the minus square root of 59. And again, if you were asked to give approximate numbers for that, you should be able to. Square root of 59 is somewhere between 7 and 8. So one's going to be negative 7 plus 7, so it's going to be close to 0. And the other one's going to be close to a negative 15.
Do we have to do that?
No, I'm just saying, don't forget in math what you can, the answers that are numbers you understand. Because if I asked you what to give me the square root of $59, you would have no idea what it is. One more, just because we're that's right. It's never good to whine just before the end of the class.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, yes.
True.
think that always.
Now, you might be happy that this one may actually work out to some nice numbers, I don't know.
Are those in the brackets?
What's that?
Are those in brackets, like,
No, that's an 18 and a 31. I can see how it looks a little like 8x minus 3 in brackets, but the absolute value, is that the absolute value of 8x minus 3? No.
okay, wait.
So follow the unfair steps. For some of you, this may be the only time you'll ever see this in your math. But for most of you, unless you're not planning any sort of a career now, you have to take 4 more years of math. I'm sure it'll come out someday.
Unless you go to.
I know, what is
Five and seven.
Hopefully you at least got to the point where you needed to get the 31 to the other side. People seem to struggle with this, but it's not that difficult. To find out what number you want here, half of negative 18 squared. So half of negative 18 is negative 9, negative 9 times negative 9 is 81. Plus 81, plus 81. So this one doesn't work out, sorry. You get x minus 9 times x minus 9 equals 112.
Oh, well, that's why.
Oh, wait, why'd you go?
31 and 81, 112.
We were right.
Square root, x minus 9 equals plus or minus. Unfortunately, the square root of 112 looks like it can be broken down into 2 times 56, and 56 is 2 times 28, and that's 2 times 14, and that's 2 times 7. These are all square roots, so I'm guessing 4 times the square root of 7? Is that not right?
Oh, you can.
So your two answers are going to end up being x, add 9, so you get 9 plus 4 times the square root of 7, and 9 minus. I thought they were going to work out.
Wait, don't go.
Can you make, we will bring this up again tomorrow. We have to take the fraction, square it, we actually get 4, so. Did you say 9? Square it. So 19 was the middle number?
Guys, I wrote my attempts. Alex, my
No, she insults my mom.
I'm saying
That's so, like, some of my podcasts and actually, really unstructured.
I was losing. I was.
What?
Did we have this in there? Just
What's today's date? Oh, wait, what's the 15th?
23rd.
I don't know, 23rd? I do, okay. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you need the clickers?